Welcome back to Strong. We are taking Zoom and traveling around the world with this journey that we call Strong. For anyone watching us for the very first time, Strong is a journey that started with one woman's story, but what it is leading us to is creating a global community of strong female role models in season 1. And we are taking the journey and we are learning about real life stories. The aim of Strong is to help create a global community that the youth can be tapping into. I believe that the time has come for everyday people to become the superheroes of our youth's lives. We are here to create awareness, self-consciousness, self-reflection, and more importantly, for the youth to understand that wisdom begins at home. And today we welcome Amal to our journey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
I'm really excited to have you here today. I want to bring into context how we met. So I love it when I hear guests tell me or remind me and tell the audience how we met. So I'm going to throw that at you and ask you to kind of talk to us about how you met me and how you became part of this journey.
I basically took a plane from London to Dubai. It was one of the last planes leaving during the sort of Corona phase. I don't know when your listeners are listening to this, but it was the beginning of the Corona phase. And the UAE, I was told, we're going to shut its borders and the planes were going to stop flying. So I documented that journey and I put it on Instagram just for friends and family. It kind of went viral. A bunch of people started following me. I woke up and I just had sort of thousands and thousands of followers. And I kind of felt at that point that they had nominated me for some social responsibility, which was, they said, this is the first time anyone sort of covered Corona. We didn't know what was going on. You showed us the journey. And so I thought, okay, well, now I'm in this position. I guess I kind of need to keep everyone informed. And I was put into quarantine in a hotel and I was there for 14 days. I'm back home now, but for those 14 days, it was basically my life every day, how I kept busy, and most importantly, how I kept sane, how I did mentally, because one of my biggest fears when I got there is, well, I'm quite certain and sure of who I am as a person, and I think that I can do this, but I worry about people who have issues like depression, anxiety, or other mental illnesses that are gonna stop them from being able to do that. I mean, you're stuck in a box pretty much for 14 days, 4 walls, no fresh air, no human contact. It's just social media, and some people have stuff, some people don't have stuff. And so I started recording it like a diary every single day. And I think that's when you reached out to me and you shared your story with me and the strength that you had and spoke to me about sort of, your family and the things that you had been through. And so I thought, okay, well, this is excellent. And of course I shared your story on my channel, which was excellent, because I feel like when you share these things, it makes people more aware and comfortable, and they feel like they have something to relate to, and it just went from there. So and you asked me to be on the show, and here I am.
Amazing. And that's exactly, I remember opening up social media, getting ready to post our day's posts, and this post about your journey popped up on the national newspaper post, and I went, "Wow, who is this amazing woman? I need to learn more." And that's when I found you, and I started to see the work that you do, and I was really inspired by how genuinely honest you were in sharing what was going on for you. And in coming from this part of the world, I really was excited because I thought, finally, we have young people starting to share their journey and using social media to be able to share it. And that's what attracted me to reaching out to you. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for being part of this. And this takes us to my very first question. I love asking this question because I think I love more watching the guest think about the answer before giving it to me. So that's my favorite part. But hearing past guests, what I hear that they really enjoy is the idea of having to self-reflect before answering the question. So drum roll, please. Who is Amal? Really, at the core, who is Amal?
Someone who's really proud of who they are, someone who I feel is quite strong, someone who's really passionate, who's very driven. Um, hmm, I mean, I'm just me, you know. I know I'm just me, and I don't know otherwise. You know, it's just, it's hard to say. I can tell you the traits that I have, the qualities, the things I believe in, the morals, the values. But at the end of it, I know that everything that I have lived through, all my experiences, my background, my family, all these things, that's what creates me as an individual. That's what creates Amal, you know. You're born, you're given a name, you know, by your parents. And my name, Amal, in Arabic means hope. Um, and, you know, and you know, live your life. You know, am I full of hope? Am I full of passion? Um, yeah, I'm just, I guess, just me, you know. I'm many things. I'm many things. And I can say, you know, I'm a filmmaker. Obviously, that's, you know, my job, but it's a great part of who I am. I'm an Arab. That's a big part of who I am. It's part of my identity. I'm a woman, you know, that's also a big part of my identity. I'm pretty cool. That's also part of my identity.
What's it like to be you on a typical day?
It's awesome. It's awesome. I love being me. You know, I think what's really difficult is I feel a lot of people don't embrace who they are as people. And when you don't accept yourself for who you are, that's when you tend to live with not just a lot of demons, but you don't fully accept you for who you are. And the older I get and the more I grow and the more I hear, the more I learn, the more I come to terms with who I am and accept things, you know. When I guess when you're a teenager, people always question kind of who you are, what you believe in. You're not cool if you don't conform, if you don't fit in, if you don't look a certain way. And as a teenager and as a kid, I mean, as a kid, let's just start at primary school. You know, as a kid, I was a very loud, very charming, very fun kind of person, and I loved meeting and speaking with everyone. You know, adults and children alike. I loved listening to stories. And then, you know, I had a very strong sense of what I loved and what I enjoyed doing. And when I got to kind of the teenage phase of my life, that's when I kind of lived my truth. You know, I was into rock and roll. I was a total tomboy. I hated girl things. I mean, I don't consider myself a girly girl, but I hated dresses and I hated shopping. I still hate shopping. You know, I hated makeup. I wasn't into those things. And suddenly something was wrong with me because I didn't fit the mold that was whatever everybody else was, you know? And then as a teenager, you don't know otherwise. So you begin to question these things, you know, am I, you know, is that why boys don't like me? Or is that why, you know, I'm not, you know, which doesn't make sense. Now you look back at it and you're like, well, no, I was cool. Everybody loved me and we chilled and I had friends, and obviously I had plenty of friends and I got along with different people and different groups of things. You know, I was very much into martial arts and I had a group of friends who were into martial arts and we would hang out and, you know, and I kind of did a lot of outdoorsy things, scouts and things like that. But you start to kind of make excuses and for yourself, and then you start to say, well, you know, is that okay, and then you get to sort of your 20s and you know, and maybe your 30s, and people start to say, well, you know, I don't like this about your character, or you're just too you know. The easiest and the quickest example that comes to my mind is actually when it comes to like relationships. And I suppose, you know, we all are attracted to different people, and we go through this during our lives. I'm no different. Yeah, I'm a human being with feelings for other people as well. And you know, when I used to like men, for example, I was interested, and I would act a certain way. People would be like, "No, don't say that. That's crazy." And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, well, don't check your phone 20 times. That's crazy. Or, oh, he doesn't know, he doesn't really like you. Stop being so naive. And so you start to associate these words like crazy and naive and all this stuff with being a woman and being you, and you begin to doubt yourself and question yourself. Um, and you get to the stage where, I mean, the older you get, the more you become comfortable. And now I love it when people are like, oh my God, that's crazy. I was like, yeah, I'm crazy, you know, or stop being so naive. I'm like, yeah, you know, if that makes me naive, well then great, I'm naive. So is everyone else, you know, like, so you start to embrace those parts of you. And, you know, you asked me the question, who am I? Like, I grow every single day and I become a stronger person every single day because I accept who I am every single day. The more you can accept yourself, the more you can embrace, the less you fear and the less you care about the judgments of other people. And I'm fortunate enough in that I was able to do that quite early on. And I think that was because of role models, because of people in my family, because strong presences like my mother, you know, you understand, and you know, she's that kind of person, you know, just I don't care, I don't care, I don't care what people think, I don't care. And so you start to, you know, realize that sometimes when people criticize you, it's valid and you can accept it and you can think about it. And then sometimes when people criticize you, it's because they're coming from a place of hate or a place of jealousy, which is actually often the case. I mean, people will say things to you or act a certain way because they don't want the best for you. They want the worst for you because it makes them feel better about themselves.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Talk to me about, I mean, I'm listening to you and I've been watching your stories, and what I keep feeling when I watch your stories, and even now, I'm really resonating with the growth of a young woman that's in front of me. But we know that we don't wake up this way. We're not 12 and 14 and then like this. There is that journey, which you talked about. So take us through like a typical day of Amal, from morning to evening, just to give young people watching this an idea of, you know, what it is that you have to go through on a normal day when the cameras aren't showing, when people aren't watching. It's that behind the scenes that we never really get to see.
Mm. So I'm between, I mean, I travel quite a bit. So now that I'm in the UAE, I'm with my family. And so, you know, typically I wake up pretty early in the morning, no matter how late I sleep. I always tend to wake up at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. And I hate sleeping in. I feel like I waste the day because I feel like everyone's alive and everyone's awake during the day. And that's when I want to be alive and awake, you know? Um, and so I get up early in the morning, which usually means that I have breakfast or coffee with my parents, which I love. I think the older you get, the more you know, form a sort of friendship with your parents. Um, and and then I go straight to work. I mean, my life, I think my life mostly now consists of work. So um, I'll usually spend a couple of hours on the computer, whether it's you know, writing emails or catching up or writing scripts or doing the work that I set out. And I have a planner, I have a diary, and I you know, I keep track of everything I do. I make lists. I'm such a list maker, and I love lists. And I say, okay, what are my goals for today? And I'll write down, you know, call Karen, you know, make lunch or whatever it is, like, and I'll list out the things that I have to do during that day. So typically it does mean that, you know, I'll spend time working, I'll break for lunch, I'll probably go back to work again for a few hours. And then I just relax and do whatever I want to do. I mean, now, like, you know, during, you know, Corona phase, you know, I've been doing a lot of things to, you know, just on a whim. Oh, I feel like baking a cake right now, or I feel like painting right now, or I feel like um, doing stop motion animation right now. So it's all about different activities and keeping myself busy. I'm also, I feel like I'm quite musical. So, you know, I play a few instruments. You know, I'll go down and play the piano for a bit, or I'll pick up the guitar for a bit, or I'll sing for a bit, or do a class. Whatever I do throughout the day, I always leave my afternoons, my late afternoons, to just kind of discover something new. But it's not a must. Like, I'm not like, I have to. And if I don't, I'm like, you know, I allow myself to give my body and my head and my mind whatever I feel like doing. So if I feel like not doing that and I just want to sit there and watch TV all day or watch movies all day, I do that, you know. But within myself, because I have those tasks that I set, I'm just like, all right, well, I don't want to watch this film until I finish my work, you know? And I feel like once that's out of the way, once I can check it, I get so much satisfaction from just checking that box. Then I'm like, okay, you know, now I can relax. And that's also more kind of bonding time. So if my family are around, typically, you know, I'll just spend some hours with them. Maybe we'll watch a movie together. You know, my mother and I have been on, you know, been binge watching several episodes now. Lots of things on Netflix and so on, and you know, but yeah, it's a chance for us to share in that, or we will throw ourselves into some kind of philosophical discussion for hours. You know, we're like, well, let's discuss cornflakes. Like, where did cornflakes come from? Well, I don't, you know. And then my father will chime in and say, you know, like, well, I believe that societally, you know, and we had these really like invigorating conversations. But we are that kind of family. We're a very opinionated kind of family. We were always encouraged to speak out and to speak our truth and to argue and fight against the sort of status quo. So it's like, you know, or just speak our minds, you know.
That's amazing. So I'm hearing that family is part of a typical day. And you mentioned now during COVID-19 time, what would you say that before COVID-19, when you were busy, you said you travel a lot, would your typical day look very different, or would it be almost similar, but in a different place?
It would be quite different in that I don't have the family element, because then I'm often on my own. And so it will, you know, the family will be replaced usually with friends. You know, but I spend a lot of time on my own. I'm not, I'm not somebody who, yeah, I'm quite an extrovert. You know, I like having other people around and I like having these discussions, but I do appreciate time to myself from time to time. But yeah, I always like to keep busy. So usually those tasks will start earlier. So if I have breakfast, I'll have, you know, quick breakfast on my own. Um, know whatever it is, you know, it's a, oh, like I need to go down to this office today and do that, or I need to stop by the post office and drop this thing off, and it'll be like bam 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 until lunch. And typically lunch is wherever I am in the world, you know, will be a restaurant, because I love eating out, you know. And as you've seen from my stories, I can cook. I can cook quite well. I
She
cook
cooks
very well.
really, really well. She does.
Thank you, thank you.
You know,
But
I think what I'm really enjoying the most is the humor part of you. And I see this in your stories. I'm hearing this now. It's like life is busy, Amal. I can feel that your life is really, really busy. Pre-COVID, during COVID, you're a busy woman, but there's humor into it. Would you say that you always had that when you were younger as a teenage girl?
I mean, I've never, how to say this, like, been a sad person. I'm not saying I don't have moments of sadness. I do, but I don't know. I suppose I'd like to say maybe it's Arab culture. I'm not quite sure what it is, but we don't make compromises, and we never make excuses for people. So I was always taught, and as I grew up, I mean, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, but you know, I remember once losing a teacher at school, a teacher of mine. Well, actually, this happened several times, because when I was living in Turkey at the time, and Turkey had faced several earthquakes, and during that phase, we lost a lot of our school. We lost teachers, we lost students. So I was faced with death quite early on, but as a teenager, that became a bit more difficult because it started happening all the time. Um, and then eventually, you know, I mean, I just got to the stage where I was like, okay, well, this really sucks. I want to sit here and I want to be upset, you know. And I'd have members of my family come up to me, aunties and the like, just being like, well, don't worry about it, just go have a sandwich. And I'm like, what? They'd be like, "Yeah, don't worry, I want to go to the movies." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? No, I don't want to go to the movies. I want to sit here and grieve and be upset." And there was never really much time for that. Like, they were just like, go out, do things, keep yourself busy. Don't be alone. When you're alone, you have time to think. When you have time to think, you'll kind of be within your head too much, and you'll feel sad, and you'll feel so. I was always pushed to do those things. So I think those were the way that was the way that I dealt with the moments of kind of quote unquote sadness or whichever. But I was always, I don't know, I'm a lover of life, like I love life. I love life, and I love everything it has to offer, and I love people. And how can you not be full of humor? And how can you not be full of happiness when there's so much good around you, And when you look around, you see that there are so many other people who are in such difficult situations and worst, like just things that are way worse than you. And then when you look around, you should say, well, I'm just glad, we have, I'm a Muslim, and they say, alhamdulillah, which is thank God for what you have, you have to thank God every day, because people will be in a worse situation. And so I'm just like, well, if they can have a good humor about things, and if they can be positive, then like, what reason have I for not, for being like a sour Sally or whichever.
And that's a great perspective on life, and definitely something that we want the youth to be learning how to do more and more of. What would you say your top tips are for a young person that might be listening to this saying, it sounds really easy from your perspective to say that, but you don't know what it's like to be me, and it's not easy to always say that it could be a lot harder. What would your tips be for them?
I mean, it's not easy for anybody, it's not easy for anybody. And you think that what you're going through now, no one has ever been through again or before, and do not have the same experiences as you, you can't compare your pain to others, because you don't know what someone's going through. You might sit there and you might judge someone and say, well, so and so is not being positive. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was at school once, and this new girl had joined the school, and she was so happy and gurgly and ha 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 he just laughing all the time. And one of the teenagers just turned around and said, "Could you just shut up for a second? You're being so annoying. Why do you keep laughing?" And she turned around in all seriousness, and she said, I've moved here from Africa. She said, "I come from Africa. I've seen people die every single day since I was born. I've seen truckloads of people burned to death. I've seen people die. I've seen people drown. So why do you think I'm laughing now? Why do you think I'm smiling now? I'm just trying to stay positive about things, And everyone just went, oh, shit. And just kind of like went quiet and was like all upset about it. Yeah. Well, obviously, because you don't know that person. You don't know what they're going through. And I may not know what you're going through. Doesn't matter. What matters is your attitude towards it. And I know that that's easier said than done, and that's difficult to change. But I mean, we all have to try. That's the most we can do, because the only thing, and I always say this to everyone kind of around me, I said, like, no one can help you except you. No one can save you except you. No one can love you except you. It doesn't matter who in the world that is. It can't be, even if it's your parents, even if it's your mother, no matter how much they love you and care about you, if you're not willing to fix yourself, ain't nobody gonna swing a little wand and be like, be cured, be healed, be better, So it's really your responsibility, and you just got to take the steps towards doing that if you care about kind of who you are in your future. And I know a lot of teenagers don't care, actually, I know a lot of teenagers are like, yeah, but who cares, or nobody cares, or nobody this or nobody that. It's like, you're saying that because you're a teenager, give yourself, wait till you're like, 20, 25, 30, then look back and then say, okay, yeah, like that was really crappy for me. If you still feel the same way, then you feel really crappy. And when
sorry.
I was gonna say, when I finished university and I came back to the UAE, I was working at a job I totally hated, and I was like, this sucks. I want to leave. I wanted this. I wanted that. And a friend of mine turned around and said, look, just give it 2 years, see how it is. If you hate it, leave. If you don't, stay. And I was like, all right, okay, fine. And then, well, I'm here.
So it's so great, and it's so great to hear. I love these stories, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into your younger years, if that's okay. Okay. What would you say has been your greatest challenge since you were about 14, 15, or maybe even before?
I would say loving myself. I think I really struggled with that because what happens is when you are younger, you become who people tell you you are, you know? I was a tomboy, therefore I was boyish. Therefore I was undesirable to the opposite sex. I was chubby, therefore I was fat, therefore I was ugly, therefore nobody liked me and nobody wanted me. I was, I enjoyed strange and weird activities like martial arts, which were not typically um, girly things, but they were also not typically Arab girly things within that society. So suddenly all my hobbies or something like that was something wrong. Um, I, I speak English. English is my first language because, I studied abroad, I lived abroad, and I went to schools all over the world. My Arabic was not the strongest. Suddenly I'm a life failure because I can't speak Arabic the way I should be. Um, so it was like coming to terms with all these things that, like, you are crap at this, you are crap at this, you are crap at this. And no one ever told me, look, you're awesome at this, or you know what, you're great at this, because we hear what other people tell us. The people who do, I think the reason why teenagers love their friends so much is because your friends tell you those things. You have that friend, that best friend, two or three friends that go and sit and be like, yeah, but no, you're awesome. By the way, yeah, actually, you're really pretty. Actually, you're this. Actually, you're that. Or the guys say to the other guys, oh, man, but yeah, you might be on the skinny side, but if you worked out a little bit, you'd look really awesome, or things like that. Like, they give you words of encouragement, whereas it's the adults, I feel, that kind of put you down, and they're like, you're a failure, you're this, your grades suck, you're this. I mean, my grades did suck. I failed math pretty much all through school, and they're like, oh, you're such an idiot. What? Now I look back and I think, well, what, I'm an idiot because I couldn't do math, but I can do other stuff. And so I think once I passed that, and it was like 14 onwards, it was like, okay, like you come through, you go through experiences, and situations happen to you where you needed to surmount that. You need to kind of be like, okay, yeah, like I'm really fat, and I've been shopping, and I want to try this dress on, and everybody looks good in the dress, but I don't look good in the dress. Like, what am I going to do? And it's about, like, within you and yourself, whether you have discussions with other people, whether you learn to accept it or not, whether you sit there and cry for hours or yell or shout or fight with people, you eventually get through that. Because if you don't, then you get to my age and you still live with those issues, and
So
those challenges.
I love this because this is one of the main reasons I started strong. So you know that I had a 21-year-old daughter. She was raised with parents who told her how amazing she was, how awesome she was. But at the same time, somewhere on that journey, she started to self-judge. And somewhere on that journey, she started to get really frustrated with not being able to achieve what she believed success for herself would be. And I always now, when I meet with young women, and women that have gone through those stages, I'm trying to identify what happens and how do some young women make it and some young women really struggle with it. So growing up, you said that, you didn't fit the type, you didn't fit the way you were supposed to look or the way you were supposed to sound, and you were kind of being labeled whatever it was that they were labeling you because you were different to what was expected of a young girl at that time. Yes. So what was the crossing line for you that made you say, I don't care what you think. I have what I want, and I am going to be who I am going to be, and I'm proud of it.
There was never a crossing line for me. There was not one definitive moment, because every single moment is a moment you have to decide and overcome. And you're asking, how do people deal with that? Each person is different, and it's not about how they are raised, because your parents raise you and put inside you you know, let's just say you come in as a vessel, you know, you come in as an empty kind of, you know, hollow shell, and your parents put a couple of drops in there, they put a little segment in there, but then there are other segments that happen to you outside that entity, or that, you know, whether it's outside your family, it might be your friends, it might be other experiences that you faced, and no one can really protect you against that, because you're not with your daughter when she had a crush on a guy when she was 16, and, you know, the guy really broke her heart or something to that effect. Do you know what I mean? And you can't always be there, and she won't talk to you about these things, and she won't, you know what I mean? It's like not everyone is going to deal with that in the same way. And you don't know if that one experience really, really affects that one person. Um,
But what was it
and
like
it's
for
not
you?
about,
What was it like for you? So because strong is about every woman's story. So today is your story. And what I don't want to do is get lost in us talking about the general and what it could be. I really want for your story to shine today. So what was it for you? Like what was that nugget that you learned, that you gained, that made you think, you know, the world might be telling me I have to look or sound a certain way or do certain activities, but I am Amal and I am going to be this way.
well, it's finding that one thing that, you know, that pulls you away from the thing that you feel is not good enough for you. Like for every bad experience I had good experiences. You know, I did meet guys who thought, oh well, actually you are kind of cute, and I'm like, oh, really? And then it's like battle, battle, battle with myself in my mind, being like, well, he said this, but I'm sure he doesn't mean it. But he doesn't mean it, you know. And you fight with yourself because you don't want to accept that part of yourself. Like people actually think this person's attractive, this person's not attractive, or so on. You know, it's going out and I remember, actually, I remember one very distinct moment. I always went shopping in the male section, and I was in Abu Dhabi at the time, and I went into the center. I forgot what the center was called, and I was shopping with my mom, and she was, you know, oh my God, rolling her eyes, being like, oh, there she goes again, you know, with her boy clothes, and it was really baggy shirts and really baggy pants. And the guy just turned around and went, no, ma'am, this is the male section. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, and I just kept shopping and stuff. And he goes, ma'am, you're shopping in the male section. This is the boys' clothes. The girl clothes are over there. And I just snapped and, well, I don't want the girls' clothes, okay? I want the boys' clothes. And he goes, yeah, but you're a girl. I'm like, no, I'm a boy. You happy now? You happy now? So it's just like getting to the point where, for me, like, this is the thing. Like, but this is also within my personality. It's like, it's not something my parents taught me. I was born this way, you know? Like, I will accept and chill and be very easygoing and very open and very honest and very, but if you cross my line, you know, and that line is that line of like who I am, you know, if you cross that line and you try to tell me I'm something I'm not, and I know I'm that, then I'd be like, no, no, I'm not going to entertain this right now. And I think this is it. This was like, that's me in like mini battles across my life, you know,
That's
in every respect.
that's so fabulous. Now I know there's a lot of parents watching this and saying, wow, you know, I they're looking at you and saying, that's fantastic. And many parents feel the pressure, myself included, in having that responsibility. It's kind of like if our children don't achieve, or if our children aren't confident, if our children aren't successful, it's almost as if fingers are pointed at us, and if they're not, we point them at ourselves. How much of an impact do you feel that your family had on you being this strong, confident woman today?
Oh, that's that's interesting. Well, look, if you're saying, okay, what impact do your parents have on you being strong? The thing is, strength doesn't come from positive reinforcement all the time. It can come from negative judgment sometimes. You see what I mean? Like if you know, like I was not encouraged very much as a child. You know, I was not supported very much as a child. Um, You know, it wasn't, we didn't come from a family where it was like, oh my God, look at you, good job, you got an A, you know. It was like, oh, you got an A, you know, why not an A plus? Or like, oh, you know, it's like, it was never good enough, you know, and you always had to prove yourself. So maybe that leads to strength. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't, just because your parents criticize you, or your family kind of, you know, will, you know, put you down, or whatever it is, you know, for me at least, I feel like that's where my strength came from, because I didn't come from that kind of family. You know, sometimes I think, oh well, what would I be like, or what would my life be like if I did come from that kind of family? You get given the family that you get given. You don't pick them, but you know, you get given them for a reason. um and yeah, I think that's kind of what happened with me.
That's so important to reiterate. I'm going to say what you just said again. You don't pick your family. You get given your family, and that's your family. And I think that sometimes young people say, but they're luckier because they come from this kind of like lifestyle, or they have this or they have that. And what I'm hearing you say is, listen, we get given this family, and we make the most of what we have in our life. Would you say that, looking back at growing up, that you had times in your life where you wish it could have been different, and times in your life where you thought, I don't think I have what it takes to make it? And if you did, what were the strategies that you remember using to overcome that?
I know this might be a bit vain to say, but I don't think I ever had any of those moments where I was just like, I can't continue, I can't do this, I can't overcome it, because I'm not a can't person. I I have ambition and drive and passion, and it was never a question of if I can, it was when I can. And because I'm impatient, I wanted it now. And if I want it now, then I'm going to have to work super hard to get to that level. So as I was growing up, I mean, you know, for example, to take my weight again, you know, being little, you know, being a fat girl, it was always like, oh, you know, I can become skinny if I diet and I exercise, I can reach that level. But I didn't want to. You know, I was very happy with myself. I was happy with my body. I was comfortable. I love food. You know, I did exercise, but you know what? That was just that was me, you know. And there were times where I wondered, and I thought, okay, if I was skinnier, and could I get better clothes, would I be more accepted, would I, and that would be like a passing, you know, into my mind, and I'd be like, nah, love me, okay, thanks, bye, you know, and just keep going. So that never bothered me. But when there are moments, and I can't remember anything that really bothered me, you know. One thing that did bother me was what I studied. You know, I always had a passion for film. I always had a passion for acting, and that's something I wanted to pursue. And when it got to the stage where I had to leave school and go to university, um, doing that was just not an option for me because of my background, because of my culture, because of my traditions, my family values. And so I ended up going into science. And yeah, okay, granted, I liked science. Um, but you know, that's not something that I necessarily wanted to do. It wasn't my passion. And I think I was maybe my first year of university, and I just thought, okay, like, great, well, I'm here now. And I'm like, listen, i'm here I'm here for a reason. I need to get my education. I need to finish what I start. And that became almost like a mantra for me: finish what you start, you know. And I'm like, I'm going to finish it, and then I can do whatever I want. And it's just kind of something within me that just, you have, I guess you have a chat with yourself. You like face yourself in the mirror and you go, listen, this is what we're doing, right? Mom's not going to do it, dad's not going to do it, family's not going to do it, no one's, you know, waving a wand. I want this, therefore I'm going to do this.
Amal, I'm just I'm overwhelmed with your. I wish I knew you growing up. I think I think having people like like you in the way that you are talking and the way that you are describing your growth is contagious. It's almost infectious. Did you ever have anyone just like you today growing up, a friend, a cousin, a relative? Who was Amal for you when you were young?
I didn't have that. I never had a role model. And, and I remember having that question and struggling with it a lot. People at school would say, who's your role model? And I'm like, oh guys, shit, I got to pick a role. Who's my role model? And I'd like think about people, and I'm just like, no, I just want to be the best me. Like, I'm just me. Like, I can't think of anyone, and people say that with film, they go, who's your role model in filmmaking? Look, I love Quentin Tarantino, but I don't want to be Quentin Tarantino. I want to be me, I want to make my films in my way. And I think, my best friend growing up was somebody who was completely opposite to me. We were friends because we shared, we had a shared mind. We agreed on many things. We both had an interest for the psychic and the paranormal, but she was a bombshell, skinny, tall, very beautiful, like model, basically, who had nothing to do with my culture, my background, my religion, was the complete opposite of me. But we were best friends. And she was my person because, I guess it's just bouncing. I mean, you say that I've grown into the, I have grown into this person. I've always been this person, but my strength grew because of the people around me. Because I, especially as a woman, bounce ideas. I mean, we feel better when we talk to other people, right? So whenever I had an issue, I would come to my best friend and I'd be like, oh, this is a thing. And she'd be like, well, this is what I think you should do. I think you should do that. I think you should do that. And we would have that banter and discussion. And you kind of grow as a person towards that strength. But looking up and being like, I want to be that, nah, I never had that.
That's so great. A past guest, Eileen, when I asked her that question, she said, I'm my role model, kind of like what you're saying right now. And I love hearing what you're saying, and I loved it as much when Eileen said it, because I want young people to look at themselves and say, I am the best me that I can ever be, and I want to be me. I don't want to be that person. I think young people look to influencers sometimes and put them on a pedestal and almost believe that if I can aspire to be just like them, then I'm successful. But let's be proud of who we are. So it's so great to hear you saying that as well. Talk to me a little more about your aspirations. So you said, I love being me. I'm really, really enjoying being me. I have dreams. I have aspirations. Where does Amal go from here? Where do you imagine the next decade of your life taking you?
The thing is, I feel like because I achieved so much so quickly in my life, the question becomes, where do I go from here? It's like people say, oh yeah, you'll eventually have a great job, and you'll eventually have money, and you'll eventually buy a house, and you'll eventually do this and that. And it's kind of like, I've done those things, so what do I do next? We are all on this planet because we have a goal, we have a mission, we have something that we want to do. We all have a purpose, and we all have a gift. This is what I believe. I believe the gift that I have is the gift for helping others, and I feel like that is my life mission. So I often ask myself, when I die, like, what will I, if I died tomorrow, would I be upset? If the question is yes, because I haven't done what I wanted to do, then I'm obviously not doing what I want to do. If you ask me that question right now, I'll tell you, no, I'm completely comfortable with dying tomorrow. Why? Because my life ambition, my life goal is to contribute to humanity, to teach, to inspire. And it might not be achieving, the Oscar or doing all this stuff. That stuff, that's just a byproduct of doing what you love. I made the film Hafi Marathi about, being mixed. I made The Brain That Sings, which is about autism and special needs and music therapy. Just on those two films alone, if I died tomorrow, my films will continue living, and people will watch them and learn from them and get inspired by them and understand that they're not alone in the world because of that. You know, let's just take my career aside. As a person, me having this conversation with you, you know, I'm learning from you, you're learning from me. I've affected your life in some way, you've affected mine. If I died tomorrow, I'd be happy because I know Maria's taken something away from what I've said, and you know, I've taken something away from what she said. So it's just an exchange. You don't have to be the world's best and the world's greatest, but you need to fulfill your life mission. And you need to ask yourself consistently the question, if I died tomorrow, would I be happy? And if the question is no, you go back and you fix those things, and you make sure you do those things so that when you go, you know, you'll be happy with the life that you've lived and created.
How old would you say you were when you recognized that we all have a purpose? We all have a journey, and there's a purpose on that journey.
Very young. So I lost my best friend when we were both 7 years old. And he got run over by a car. And I just asked myself, like, well, that sucks. That sucks for his mom. That sucks for like everyone like that. So what what is the point? Like what was his point? What was his purpose? You know? Um, and then again, I lost another friend when he was 13. He was murdered. And I just thought, well, what's the purpose of that? So I consistently kept asking, like, well, what are we here for then? Like, what's the whole point? And then I realized that not everyone, you know, and I used to say this about a 13-year-old, if he had lived today, he might have done things differently. He might be a different person altogether. He was only meant to live for those certain number of years. For some reason or another, we don't know. And I believe with that kid especially, is, you know, him and I were great friends, but he was bullied a lot at school. And when he passed away and everyone kind of heard, oh, he's passed away, people were like, oh man, we treated him like such, you know what I mean? We treated him really badly. And I think that was an awakening for pretty much all the kids in our class to be like, stop acting like a douche, you know? Um, and maybe his entire existence and his entire purpose was to teach people this lesson, you know, because he was a strong person, he was tough, and he has to have such strong morals and beliefs, and he would just do things, and people would be like, well, it's not, and just uncomfortable with it because they couldn't take that he was such a formed person at such a young age. And I think that was the point, was to wake them up, you know. The friend who I lost at age 7, maybe he was supposed to teach his family how to love the other kids even more. You know, we don't know. We are just so minute in our minds, and we can't understand those things. And so I feel from a very young age, I started to be like, oh, okay, well, you know, people, when someone's day comes, it comes, and everyone has lived for a reason, for the duration that they were meant to live.
So being a young woman, a young person, you were able to recognize that bigger purpose. And hearing your story today, I can resonate with that because of the examples that you've given us about your story and your journey. And that strength is undeniable, Amal. I know that anyone watching this right now is looking at you and saying, wow, you know, really, really amazing. So I want to acknowledge you for that. How does it feel hearing someone like me that you don't know telling you, I'm acknowledging you for being who you are? Do you find that comfortable to receive?
Yeah, I mean, I feel heard, you know, I feel heard, which I think is important. I think, you know, I believe in humanity and human beings. And I think we're all human, and we need to listen to each other, and we need to talk to each other. And I feel like that's what's missing these days. I think a lot of people are kind of lost because they don't talk enough, or they don't listen enough, or they're not heard enough. Like, there's a difference between listening and hearing someone. And I know that you're hearing me because I know that you have similar experiences, and I know that we have a shared mission, which is the strength, you know, the strength of character that we want to find within other people.
So beautiful, Amal, and brilliantly brings me to my final question. So strong is not just about sharing women and people stories with the audience. It's also about helping our audience to understand how we can come together as a global community and support the guest. So, Amal, how can we support you on your strong journey?
Be kind, be kind. I think doing this Insta stories and me actually exposing my life to other people, I get a lot of bullying remarks. I get a lot of, this is behind the scenes. Obviously, people don't see this. People saying just silly things like, oh, you think you're better than everyone. You think this, you think you talk too much, or just little bullying remarks, and I know that people are saying it because they want to put other people down and make them feel sorry and like make themselves feel better about themselves. But what I want for myself and I want for others is just say something nice about someone, or pick up the phone, send a text message and say, hey, listen, you're awesome, or hey, listen, I've just been thinking about it, you are like one of the awesomest people that are, or you have this or you have that, whether it's to you or to others. I would love to. There's nothing better than waking up in the morning and somebody, sending me a message and being like, oh, I just saw your film, it's really cool, I really relate to this. And I'm like, whoa, this is what I live for. Don't we all live for this? Don't we all live for this? Because that's getting me closer to my goal of like contributing to humanity, and making the world a better place and changing the world. I still have that juvenile, childlike outlook on life. When I grow up, I want to change the world. This is what I'm doing now. This is what I will do in 20, 30, 40 years. And if you can help me, that's what I'd love.
Fabulous. So, anybody watching this, be kind, show kindness, and definitely reach out to people and just tell them how awesome they are. Thank you so much, Amal. Thank you for joining us on Strong. Thank you for really connecting when this woman you had no idea, knew nothing about, reached out to you. I am just so excited to have you on the journey as well. So that brings us to a wrap.